Imagine this. You're a teenager just walking home from a party. You haven't committed a crime. You've done nothing wrong. But suddenly, you're stopped by police. You're handcuffed, taken to jail, and for the next 3 years, you're trapped in a cell. Not because you're guilty, but because you're poor. This isn't fiction. This is the true story of Kalief Browder, a boy who lost his freedom and eventually his life, all because of a broken system. Kalief was just 16 years old when police arrested him for stealing a backpack he didn't take. No evidence. No solid witness who could truly place him at the scene. Yet, that single accusation was enough to lock him up on New York's infamous Rikers Island for 3 years. All without a trial. What happened to Kalief is a story of injustice, neglect, and systemic failure. But it's also a story that exposes how deeply unfair the American justice system can be, especially if you're young, black, and poor. In America, the right to a speedy trial is written into the Constitution. But for thousands of people awaiting their day in court, that right doesn't exist in reality. Why? Because the cash bail system keeps people locked up simply for being unable to pay. If you can afford bail, you go home and fight your case from the outside. If you can't, you wait. And wait, sometimes for years. Kalief Browder was one of those people, and his wait would cost him everything. It was May 15th, 2010. Kalief had been at a party in the Bronx. As he walked home with a friend, a police car pulled up. Someone had called 911 claiming their backpack was stolen. The man pointed at Kalief. "That's him," he said. Just like that, his life changed. Kalief told the officers he didn't take anything. He offered to let them search him. They found nothing, but they arrested him anyway. He was taken to the precinct, booked, and charged with robbery, grand larceny, and assault. His bail was set at $3,000. For most families, that amount would mean financial stress. But for Kalief's family, already struggling to make ends meet, it was impossible. They couldn't pay. So instead of going home, Kalief was sent to Rikers Island to await trial. What was supposed to be a few weeks turned into 3 long, painful years. During that time, Kalief endured horrors that no teenager should ever face. At Rikers, violence was a daily reality. Kalief was beaten by other inmates. He was assaulted by guards. To keep him safe, they placed him in solitary confinement, alone, in a tiny cell, for over 700 days. Imagine being locked in a space the size of a bathroom, 23 hours a day. No visitors, no real human contact. Just you and your thoughts. Kalief spent his 17th, 18th, and 19th birthdays in that cell. Meanwhile, his case kept getting delayed. Court dates were postponed again and again. Witnesses didn't show up. Evidence was weak. But still, he remained behind bars. Over 31 times, Kalief was brought to court, shackled, exhausted, only to hear the same thing. Case adjourned. Back to Rikers. Finally, in 2013, after 3 years, the charges against Kalief were dropped. The accuser had left the country. There was no case. The system simply let him go. Kalief walked out of jail the day a free man, but he was no longer the same. Prison had taken a piece of his soul. He suffered from severe depression, anxiety, and PTSD. The nights alone in solitary confinement had scarred him deeply. He told his mother, "I'm not all right. I can't shake it." For 2 years, Kalief tried to rebuild his life. He enrolled in college. He spoke publicly about his experience, exposing the injustice of pretrial detention. He even met with politicians who promised to reform the system. But the trauma never left. On June 6, 2015, just 2 years after being released, Kalief Browder took his own life at his home. He was only 22 years old. Kalief's death sent shockwaves through the nation. It forced America to look at a system that allows teenagers to waste away in jail simply because they're poor. His story inspired protests. It sparked debates on bail reform. Even President Obama mentioned Kalief when calling for an end to solitary confinement for juveniles. In the years that followed, New York City began to change. Solitary confinement for minors at Rikers was banned. Bail reform laws were passed to prevent others from suffering the same fate. But for Kalief, it was too late. Right now, as you're reading this, thousands of people across the country are sitting in jail cells awaiting trial. Many are innocent. Many will have their charges dropped eventually. But they're trapped because they can't afford bail. Kalief Browder was one face, one name, but there are countless more living this nightmare in silence. And most of the world will never know their stories. Kalief was not a criminal. He was a child, a son, a friend. He deserved his day in court. He deserved a chance at life. Instead, the system stole it from him. His story is a reminder that justice delayed is justice denied, and that no one should lose years of their life waiting for a trial that may never come. Share Kalief's story. Speak his name. Demand a system that values humanity over bureaucracy. Because if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone. Justice for Kalief Browder. End cash bail. End solitary confinement.